Had anyone said to you, oh, you always land on your feet, or you're lucky?
I do believe that, yeah, you're lucky, but I think you've got to be in it to kind of win it. I think you make your own luck.
Who is actually looking after? Who's making sure you had food, water, sleep?
No one.
Did the enjoyment factor stay there for a while?
Stayed there for far too long.
Yeah, at least you rode the wave.
Yeah, we certainly rode the wave. Yeah.
Fully adopted, 20 odd years here.
Absolutely.
2 passports now.
I think you passed the test.
and now I've got the best of both worlds. Come to the city, have my foundations here, great people, and now thankfully I can travel to anywhere I want in the world when I want, and just enjoy it all, really.
Yeah, which is a great thing. Absolutely.
So I am somebody that's not big into music. I actually said that to you before. But your name has propped up so many times by so many people, and when they mention you or they mention the farm, they've got so many amazing memories. And I did see you live years ago.
Do you? Yeah.
Through a friend of mine that was doing a show in the Epstein Theatre.
Okay, yeah. The Epstein was it's a great theatre.
And we talked about travelling there, and you are someone who's seen a lot of the world through the eyes of a musician.
I consider myself really fortunate, really, to have led the life that I've led, with all including its ups and its downs, you know, that journey. So I think I've seen some amazing things, you know, from a world view perspective, and I've met some amazing people and been to some unbelievably beautiful places. Also been to some places that are not necessarily so beautiful as well, but it's all part of that experience. So from my perspective and growing up, and where I suppose our background, and I'm saying when I mean the band, you know, because we've all have similar kind of backgrounds of various areas of Liverpool. But my particular background, really, when you think of kind of where I've come from, which is not too dissimilar to most working class people in the city, I feel extremely fortunate to have had that life, and I feel extremely fortunate to still be doing it now, just to a level that I find interesting and acceptable in a way, because you know, we're still playing music and getting offers for gigs to play music, and people are still engaging with our music, you know, 35 years later. Yes, I've been some amazing places, and seen some amazing things, but in order to be able to do that, it's kind of music that's given me that, you know, and that ability to play, and that being in a band that happened to be successful. So I don't underestimate that in any way, shape or form. I just feel extremely fortunate to be in that position to be able to do that, really, because not everyone will get that opportunity, you know.
So as we said before, Liverpool for me is home, and I'm extremely passionate about it. There's lots that it's given me, and the people in this city has been amazing for me, but there's also, you know, it's not always easy to grow up in a city and then appreciate things when you're younger.
Yeah.
When you were younger, was music your outlet always, or what was it like?
Well, yes. I mean, it's not easy growing up anyway, is it? Do you know what I mean? Growing up is it's a challenge for everybody, and everyone has different, you know, different challenges. But for me, kind of growing up and coming from a kind of a working class background, I suppose, if you want, if we can call it that. It was challenging, and it was challenging because you know, I suppose of the family and the family setup, because my dad was a joiner, and he was a building worker, and he'd been involved in the building working strikes of the 1970s. And as a consequence of that, he got blacklisted. And as a consequence of his blacklisted, it meant he was always in and out of work. He was always in and out of employment, and wasn't necessarily in employment. And he spent quite a lot of those 80s years, when I call that my awareness, I suppose. It was in my teens then, you know. So that part of the growing up was quite tough, because from a young man, I suppose, point of view, it was. You're moving into an era where there was a lot of unemployment and poverty, so there were no defined routes for you to go, really. Those jobs and roles that you would expect to go into, even though they didn't exist. So that was quite difficult. prior to that, if you think of my being from the early years, early ages, when I was, in between like 6 to 10 and my teens, I had a wonderful life in that, even though you could probably look back at it now and think, well, the way we kind of existed and lived it, was pretty similar to near enough everyone else in the North End of Liverpool, but you don't look back at it. I know we come from a poor background in that respect, and lived on a maisonette, do you know what I mean?
But did it feel wonderful at the time? Because my mum says...
That's what I'm saying, you don't want to paint it like, it was deprivation.
My mum says...
Because we had a fantastic time.
The good old days, maybe they weren't so good, but everyone worked hard and got on with it.
Yeah, basically, yeah. That sums it up quite nicely. So, we kind of, like growing up, I always, we've had a fantastic time, always enjoyed ourselves, and music came in through the family, really, because my dad was an avid listener to music. My Uncle Arthur, he was I'm a huge jazz fan, so they were both very much into their folk and into their jazz and into kind of 60s music, so they had the records in the house. My nan was a pianist, so when we used to go around to my nan's, who lived like 5 minutes from Everton football ground, that's where kind of she grew up in the shadow, and that's where my mother grew up, and they had a piano in the house, and so she used to play piano, and so every party or when we go to my nan's, the entertainment then within the house, the piano was a piece of furniture. It was like a sideboard, so it was she would get on there and she'd be playing piano and she'd be singing songs all night, and so my connection to music, I suppose, really from those early days comes from that. It kind of comes from my nan. It kind of comes from the family, and it kind of comes from the connection to the music that they were playing and listening to at the time, which was kind of a lot of your popular songs of the day. And my dad was a huge Bob Dylan fan and very much into that kind of folk skiffle type scene. And my uncle, who took me to my first ever gig, he took me to see Duke Ellington in the theatre in Southport when I was 5 years of age. So I was quite fortunate because he bought tickets and he kind of took me to go and see some of the great Duke Ellington and his orchestra. I can still remember the gig now when I was 5, but I can't remember too much about the music and everything, but I just remember the enormity of it all. I was quite overwhelmed by it, but apparently it was well behaved.
There's so much science about the first 7 years of your life. That imprint period is what sends you on your journey. So it's a family thing,
the family thing, and that sense of kind of, that's how you entertained yourselves in those days. If you wanted to, a party and you had music, it wasn't necessarily about DJs or putting records on it in a lot of respects, although they did. It was about self-entertainment. And so whenever we had house parties when I was young, all the guitars would come out, at a certain time of the night when everyone had had enough to drink. The guitars would come out and everyone would be singing.
But you weren't drinking at 5?
No. No, I'd be normally standing on the stairs hiding because I was supposed to be in bed, so I'd be listening to what was going on.
So how did you learn your craft? Did you a music teacher or
I didn't have a
family?
teacher. I didn't have a music teacher. My music teacher was my dad and my brother, basically. Brother Lee. My brother Lee's younger than me. He'd started picking up the guitar and playing before I did, and there were several guitars in the house which were kind of brought in. My first ever guitar was a Hofner President, and it was my dad who brought it in because he hadn't been paid that week, and he was doing work on, I think it was Mr. Pickwick's in Liverpool at the time. He was refurbishing that club, and he hadn't actually been paid. He'd only been paid a certain amount of money, so they paid him in a guitar, which my mother wasn't too happy because she didn't have enough money to feed us all that week. So she brought the guitar and he gave it to me and said, "That's yours." So I'd kind of.
My grandfather got paid in a block of cheese one day by taking sheep to the farmyard. So
that's kind of what happened.
I understand the story.
He couldn't necessarily eat it, but I think the expectation was to learn it and maybe
bring the food later.
So I kind of started to learn on that. And my first chords were taught to me by my dad, and the first chords were taught to me by my brother. And they just let me alone, and then I just got on with it myself and taught myself from there, really.
Did you know early on that was going to be your future?
I knew early on that I was completely absorbed in it. I'm of that, when I was that age, I was quite introvert. I was in school, I was considered slow. In school, I was considered someone who was not necessarily intellectual in any way, or a slow learner is what they used to call you, and Keith will never amount to nothing. And that was because I'm now what you would consider to be neurodiverse. I've got dyslexia and various other twitches and kind of things, which you only find out years later that that's what was wrong. So I was quite introvert in that respect. So playing a musical instrument as something I could just sit for hours and do, and not realise that I'd spent like 6 or 7 or 8 hours doing it. And so my mother...
And no one told you to put the guitar
down? Well, no one
down.
told me to stop because, because now my mother always used to say there's no point in speaking to him when he's playing because he's just not listening. He's not at home. You know what I mean? And that's... I kind of got into that mindset quite early. So I knew I wanted to do something with music, even when I was I'd left school and was working on various kind of jobs that I didn't like. You know, I even had a job with this bricklayer once. I was labouring on this bricklayer, and I was a hod carrier. You know, and he used to kind of flick cement at me off the ladder when I was running up and down the ladder with bricks and cement and all of that, you know, sort of thing. And then I left the job and then went to our local college to learn how to read and write music there, and stayed there for a bit and then left there. But I always remember when I met him years later, this bricklayer, and he said to me, he said, you know, it was when the farm had started to do well. And he made me come up to me in the pub and he was like, fucking made up that you're doing really, really well. He said, I'm made up, you left. So what do you mean? He goes, well, you shit hod carrier. He said, you were never destined to do that, building work with us. Your head was always in the clouds. He said, you were always in the clouds and you were always just obsessed with music and stuff like that. And when the day you left, we were all made up, not because we didn't like it, it was because we wanted you to go and do something better, because you weren't cut out for this. And I thought that was quite touching, really.
So when did the period come from you left, you started understanding, reading, writing music, to creating the farm?
I didn't create the farm. I mean, the farm was already in existence. I'd been in existence for about 3 or 4 years before I joined. It was the mid-80s, so I'd been, you know, involved in lots of different things. I've been marching to London on right-to-work marches. I was quite politicised then. And I was in and out of going to football matches like most young men, I suppose, working class men were doing at that time. They're even going to watch Liverpool or they're going to watch Everton, and involved in that fashion, I suppose, thing of the day, and the music is part of it. So I kind of followed that path, and I was, you know, in and out of looking for employment, you know, and I was in a relationship and I had a child when I was quite young as well, you know. So, but the guitarist of the farm had left, and 2 friends of mine knew Peter, who from going to the football, and they said to him that it was Billy Dunn and Andy Dunn, I think it was, or Billy Dunn and Peter Dunn, 2 lads I know from growing up, who we hung around with, who were also Evertonians, and had said to Peter, because they knew Peter really well, and said, look, there's a lad by ours who plays guitar and he looks the part, meaning I look like I go to football matches. Do you know what I mean? And so they hooked us up and they come round to mine to audition me, I suppose. That's what you call, basically go and play, let's see what you can do. So I played some stuff for them. I can't even remember what I played for them. And he said, okay, yeah, come to rehearsal. So I went to rehearsal and that was it. I was in, you know, after 1 or 2
Had
gigs.
you got a particular style of music then?
They had a particular style of music, yeah, with the farm, which was, you know, which was kind of quite influenced by like the likes of the Style Council, likes of Madness, likes of the Specials, and independent music in the 80s. So it was definitely something I liked and something I was into, and I was made up to get in the band because they already had a reputation, you know. So for me to join such a, what was perceived locally as a high-profile band, it was a bit of a, it was an achievement in that sense. But also as well, I mean, if you kind of go back to some of them kind of difficulties I had experienced at that time in expressing myself, music for me was a voice. And the Farm as a band for me were a voice, because we connected completely on an intellectual level. We connected completely on a a sort of values level of things that we believe in and things that we values. They were the same, you know, and we were very much of the same generation, a football match going generation who was into music, who were politicised in that way. So music has always been, for me, that voice that I would not otherwise have, because you didn't have a voice then, you know. When if you look back through the kind of 80s and what this city was going through at the time, and the ongoing battle and war that it was having with the Thatcher government of the day, the farm represented to me an extension of that, like an extension of that voice. You're able to make social commentary through music and hopefully have some form of impact. You know, obviously we never expected the impact we eventually had, but at the time it represented that, you know, as well as it was an opportunity to be able to go out and play you know, your own music or with an independent band, you know.
So I think people that do know you obviously know where you ended up. For the people that maybe just aren't quite sure, you're in the band, you're doing what you love, you've got your voice, and then you started making impact. How rapid was that impact? And
it was very quick.
And
it was very quick.
Was it like overnight? You thought?
It wasn't overnight. I mean, people every overnight.
Take me through the story of how you started waking up in the morning thinking, bloody hell, we've made it here. What have you done?
Yeah. It wasn't necessarily an overnight thing, because every overnight success can take years to make. You know, and we would been around in the wilderness, I suppose, if you like, or kind of gigging around, putting records out, doing John Peel sessions, doing the things that bands were doing in the 80s for a long time. And I think I've been in the band for about 5 or 6 years before that took off. But that took off as a consequence of us engaging in dance music, basically taking off. You know, dance music started to take off. The way we looked as a band had all of a sudden become acceptable. So I think we had to become, because in the early 80s, if you didn't look like Kaji Gugu, no one was interested. Do you know what I mean? If you didn't look like, you know, like wild hair and have like, you know, huge suits on or really flamboyant, no one was interested. The record labels and that didn't get us at all. They looked and thought, you just look like football hooligans, and really, do you know what I mean? That's what they thought. You just look like that. I mean, do you not think you should go and
it's not tempted to look a bit more rough?
It's cool now.
Sparkly.
Yeah, it's cool now, and everyone wants to look like that. But back then, no one looked like that. No, especially no one in a band looked like that.
So you were just being yourselves then.
Yeah.
You dressed, you sang how you wanted to sing, and you dressed how you wanted to look.
Yeah. And so Acid House happened, didn't it, in late 87, 88 and 89. And we'd started to listen to that type of music, be influenced that music. And our manager at the time was a guy called Kevin Sampson, and he put a tape into the hand of a character, a DJ in London called Terry Farley, who we'd kind of wanted to work with, because we were going in the studio and trying to make something different to what we'd been doing, you know, and we'd gone through a change in the format of the band as well. We no longer had a brass section, and we had a keyboard player and things like that. And so we were looking for, the music was on a different route and changing anyway. And I remember Kevin saying, Terry listened to the demo and said, it sounds like they'd never been to a club in their lives. Something along that lines. But he said he really liked what we were doing, and maybe we should hook up and work together. And we got some financial backing as well. And as a consequence of that, we set up our own record label called Produce Records, not really knowing what we were doing. We just called it that, and then began to learn how to release records ourselves.
So who did you get in to help set up the record?
We started to work with local people that we knew. We got Dave Pitchalingian, who now runs Modern Sky Records, one of the most kind of happening independent record labels out there at the moment, and Dave and a few other people began to work with us and help us out and stuff, and came to work with us for a while. We started working with Terry Farley, started working with Charlie Chester in London, who owned Club Nights, and Charlie eventually went on to Ibiza and run some of the most interesting club nights in Ibiza. And we had a little bit of money, and got a bit of financial backing to be able to do some of the things that we wanted to do, and then started to make music that became relevant at that time. So the first kind of big recordings we did was a cover of a song called Stepping Stone, you know, and we kind of did a club version of that with Terry Farley. And he brought the, remember the band called Snap?
Mm-hmm.
Well, before that, Power record went huge. He kind of brought that into the studio as a record. Said, listen to this. He said, it's only done so many copies. No one will kind of know. It won't go anywhere. No one will know it. To put the loops planes. So we kind of sampled, you know, some of the drum beats and loops, and I built the record around that, and it was a huge club hit. But by the time ours was becoming a huge club hit, that was number 10 in the charts. But kind of no one really said anything or knew. So this kind of thing that we thought we were going to be quite unique with wasn't necessarily so unique. And so that was the first record that we released independently that blew up as an independent record, and it blew up organically through the clubs, even to the point where we were kind of number 40 in the charts. Our midweek was number 40 that week in the charts, and we were like, shit, you know, we just were like, what's happening here? But the reason it didn't go into the charts is because from our perspective, we didn't produce any other formats. We only produced a 12-inch single. We didn't produce cassettes. We didn't produce 7-inch. We didn't do all the different formats that you're supposed to do to get the critical mass of sales to get you up the charts. And we only did a 12-inch. So remember, we're all running around, rushing around hurriedly to try and get an edit a 7-inch format, because that original track is 7 minutes long, and no one in them days would play anything that was 7 minutes long, you know. But that's what we made it as, and it got a lot of airplay, but it kind of sets us up. I think if that had exploded as a track at that particular time, it had probably been too much at the time for us, you know. The timing was wrong. But that laid the groundwork then for everything else, so that's when it all started to go a bit crazy, you know, and it went.
So you're still producing music in Liverpool? You weren't touring?
Yeah, we had our record label on Wood Street.
And you weren't touring, or you were basing and recording here?
We were based in Liverpool. We were kind of recording in London. We were using Madness' studio at the time in London. And we were recording in London, based here. We had our own offices here. We had our rehearsal rooms here. And we were working with London people and we started to put a different team together. And it all grew very quickly. And then that year, we went out to Ibiza with Charlie Chester, because we'd been invited out to Ibiza to play some of his gigs out there in places like the Coup Club. He was running club nights out there, and he had a 3-week event, I think, out there. So we decided with a producer called Angus Cameron to get the funding to go out and film it. So we kind of, as a group of people, as a label, it was Kevin Sampson's idea in the main, he was our manager at the time, to film what was taking place in while we were out in Ibiza. And that was called a short film about chilling, and that became the first ever documentary, if you can call it docudrama maybe, documentary on youth culture and music in Ibiza. The first people ever to go out there and film what was going on was us, and we kind of went out there and did that. And then Kevin Sampson was working for Channel 4 at the time, and what he didn't tell him he was managing us. So when he come back, they were the days when he could go into TV and say, I've got this, and it'd be on the TV like 3 weeks later. So he went in and saw the top editor, the commissioning editor, and said, I've got this thing, it's been filmed in Ibiza, it's amazing, it's what's happening now. It's so underground, no one can see it. Do you know what I mean? And he basically sold it to them. And they didn't know he was managing us at the time, so he kind of got away with it. It was a stroke of genius. And then it was featured on Channel 4 on Friday night on primetime TV and it got the most viewing figures for any youth culture movie that year, documentary that year. And just so happened we were releasing our single the next day called Groovy Train, and that's what that blew Groovy Train up, yeah. And that's when it started to go absolutely crackers, you know.
So you're going crackers the next morning?
Yeah.
Because I know what it's like when things overnight do extremely well.
Yeah.
Or not so well in what's happened to me in the past. I hadn't always had the foundation, so whenever something blew up in my world, it blew over very soon after.
Yeah.
Had you got or
No, we didn't have the foundations in place because we were learning as we went along. You know, when we were working with our mates in the record label who were running the record label, who'd never run a record label in their lives. You know, I remember when, just to give you an example, remember when I think it was Music Week rung up our record label at the time and said to one of the people in Wayne Chand, it was Wayne Chand. I met him the other week in a taxi. He was driving a taxi. He answered the phone. Yeah, he answered the phone and he said, "Can we speak to the A&R department?" He went, "Yeah, okay." He just put the phone down and he just puts the hand on it and then scratches the thing and go, "Yeah, okay, yes, the A&R department." But between that, he's shouting around the room, "Someone on the phone who wants to speak to the A&R department." He wants to, everyone's going, "Fuck off, I'm not speaking to them." So he gets back on the phone, he's like, "Yeah, this is Wayne here from the A&R department." So, "Okay, you want to talk about the farm?" So then he started doing this interview and he's like, and he started asking him quite about bizarre questions about marketing and sales and ratios and all this. And he said, "Well, I'm going to..." Never forget it. He said, I said, "Hang on a minute, mate." He said, "Listen, you have to fucking slow down there." He said, he said, "Only 3 weeks ago, I was putting all them plastic bits on the end of laces." He said, "I was fitting them, lads." Do you know what I mean? And it was just a moment of epiphany, you know what I mean? It's just a kind of crazy moment that summed everything up, really. And so it was a bit like that. We were kind of learning as we were going. We were working with some amazing people. But unfortunately, you know...
So it all happened at once?
Yeah. But I mean, everyone around us was lovely people. Like Suggs was managers for a bit with Kevin, but everyone was as crazy as the band. Do you know what I mean? And you're getting a hell of a lot all at once. And so it's that learning how to deal with that. I don't think all of us, we didn't necessarily deal with the fame thing very well. You know, it kind of really puts you in a really unusual place because it was never the intention to be famous. It was never the intention to be in a famous band, you know. Playing Top of the Pops and all them things were amazing, you know. It was like, wow, it felt surreal because you've watched this show all your life.
But did the enjoyment factor stay there for a while? Because I've met some incredibly...
Stayed there for far too long.
Yeah. Okay, so at least you rode the wave.
Yeah, we certainly rode the wave. Yeah.
Tell us a bit about riding the wave, because there's so many people out there that don't really know what it's like to ride that wave.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult, really. You know, I mean, it just becomes, your life could just becomes out of control very, very quickly. And what you're trying to do is rein everything in, and all of a sudden you get everything that you could possibly think that you might want in life kind of thrown at you, you know, and it's amazing getting all the adulation. So keeping your feet on the ground becomes very, very difficult, especially when you're surrounded by kind of people who are just as elated as you are to kind of and for it to all be as unexpected. You know, it was something that's completely unexpected. So,
well, if you went to bed early and the rest of your bandmates didn't, that would be pointless, really.
Yeah, I mean, when we used to go on the road, it used to get a little bit hectic, you know what I mean? Because I mean, you're gigging every night, so every night's a Saturday night, isn't it? You know, it's not like you know, a Monday night's a gig night, so it's a Tuesday. You might get 1 day off, 2 days off in 7 days. So you get you do 7 days or 6 days, depending on how long Peter's voice was going to last. And then them days, it was 5-6 gigs, then a day off, 5-6 gigs, then a day off. So you're living that life while you're trying to record music, so you're never really home. You're constantly in a van. You're constantly going from town to town to town, or moving to interviews or doing stuff. So it becomes tiring. But if you're kind of drinking and partying a little bit while you're doing that, it becomes, you get out of control quite quickly. And you kind of lose all sense of who you are and reality. And I can't sit here and say that didn't happen to me. It kind of did, you know.
So who was actually looking after? Who's making sure you had food, water, sleep?
No one. No one. You know,
money. There's no cash machines.
Our management, and I love our management, you know, at the time can be as bad as the band, you know.
So you were all in it together.
So there wasn't really anyone saying, "Whoa, fucking pull the reins there." You know, it got out of control. You know, and I don't think that's. I don't think anyone could go through what we went through and it happened any differently. The way it was difficult, you know. But also, we probably had some of the most amazing moments in our life.
So you, at that moment, you didn't really. It's not like some of you were resisting. You just all.
Well, I think we were all very conscious of where we'd come from. We were all very, very conscious, and in a way, we were kind of like. At times, you can become disappointed in yourself because you begin to think, I've become what I don't like. Do you know what I mean? In terms of our values and our beliefs. You know, we're kind of feeling guilty about, you know, having all of that kind of opportunity and even financial opportunity to some respects. You know, that can impact upon you. You know, and I think that impacted upon all of us. You know, the farmer. You know, people used to ask us, you know, do you throw TVs out the hotel room? And we used to say, no, we normally tidy them up. You know what I mean? We're not that type of bands. You know, we're not driving cars into swimming pool type of band, you know, but I can guarantee no one will be able to keep up with us if we're on a night out, you know, and many people tried, you know. Back in the day, I tried to keep up with us, and that wasn't because we were like, it was a challenge, it was just because that's the way we were, you know what I mean? You know, we weren't like, we're not alcoholics or drug addicts or nothing like that.
Did you always turn up? Did you always do your gig?
Always turned up and did the job, yeah, always. We were always sober going on, well, most of the time.
There's a story about Hollywood, that you whenever you went to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us
what story is that?
You met a girl, LA?
No, I think it was San Francisco.
Birkenhead.
Yeah, I had an accident, didn't I? I had an accident and ended up falling off a cliff and having 80 stitches in my head and smashing all my hands up and messing all my ribs, and couldn't play the last 2 gigs of the tour because I was out of control, you know. That's what really I can say. You know, I'm calling it out of control. It was just what it's like living on the road. I mean, you're on a bus with a whole load of other people, and you've got you've got riders and drinks. You can basically do what you want, and if there's an expectation that you're kind of behaving in this way, and so your life is, you know, getting up of a morning, you're going into, you know, you're trying to, you've gone to bed, kind of getting up of a morning and you know, looking for a shower and you know, getting some clothes on and stuff, and then you're outside the venue, especially in America, you're kind of on a bus and you then look for some food, then you're going into the venue, you're doing a sound check, you know, then you're looking to get fed, so you're going back onto the bus, do you know what I mean, and then the gig's going and waiting up, and then you go and do the gig, and then you go into the dressing room after, and it's been an amazing gig, so everyone there wants to meet you, so you're having drinks and, you know, doing meet and greets, which is what the record labels expect. Everyone was your best mate, do you know what I mean, and there's all kinds of people in the after show, and then you do an after show, and then you all do, you know, by that time you've had a skinful, do you know what I mean, and you're pissed again, and then you get rolling back onto the bus and you're having a few drinks and you go to the next town, and it becomes that on repeat.
The old
every day.
You know the saying, what goes up must come down.
Yeah.
I've had my DNA mapped out from a cellular level.
You've had what, sorry?
My DNA.
Okay, yeah.
Where my dopamine levels, my serotonin levels, I know biologically how I operate.
Yeah.
And I've always been interested because I've realized that when I haven't lived the highs that you have for so long, but maybe mine's a bit more frequent, my ups and downs. And when I was given the results, to be fair, it's not really a surprise. I knew that my body needs and craves high levels of dopamine to keep me on a certain level, because the higher I get, I naturally go down.
Okay, yeah.
Conversations like this, meeting great people, sharing stories, over time, I naturally realized that's what I need. Okay, I can go and party, I can go out all night with my mates, because I actually enjoy that, but I do realize there's a down after it. Business, exercise, surrounding myself with great people, all of those things have given me the high, but not over the top. So if you're living a life of what people dream about or we crave, was there many downs in between, or was it like
absolutely, you know, the causeless downs?
Were they daily or were they weekly, or how did you manage? Because it seems like you just...
Well, I mean, it's a big thing in the music industry right now about mental health and people's mental health issues and stuff like that, and the downs are, you know, what we had as a band was each other, you know, and we did always look after each other and have each other's back, because there's no one else going to look after you in this industry, you know, and I don't mean that disrespectful to anyone that's ever worked with us. There's some amazing people we work with, but, you know, people have got their own shit to deal with, and they've got their own lives to deal with, and, you know, a record label's only, you know, one, because we eventually moved off our own independent record label onto a major, and they're kind of interested in the bottom line, you know, and as long as you're on stage doing what you do, they couldn't give a shit what it takes to get you there.
My grandma has a saying, I used to say how people are my friend and people are there to support me, and she goes, you're great because you're doing. Wait till you stop doing and you see how great you are.
Basically, yeah. And so that kind of, your grandma's a wise woman, you know, that's kind of, we had each other, really, and we kind of had each other's back with stuff. I can't imagine what it'd be like to have to go through that as a solo artist. You know, we did, you know, have each other, and we kind of, you know, and we, as a group of people, and our managers at the time had our backs and stuff like that. So we had a core group of people, and at times it did become about us against the world, you know, because once the press turn on you, and, you know, they did in our particular case, that can become a really dark place, you know.
Why did they turn on you?
Because, I don't know, it's just the way the music press can be in the UK, and probably we behaving a bit like pricks, you know what I mean, as well. So we probably contributed to that, or I was, you know what I mean, and you know, I mean, it's just the way it is, and then things go ebb and flow and go in, you know, journey in a particular way. So yeah, from 91 to 95 was like Spartacus. We had Love Seen No Colour, we had Hullabaloo, and we'd had three really interesting albums that had done well. One, probably the last one, didn't do as well as the others. And then we kind of moved to that point where everyone had just had enough. The kind of reasons we were in it, we'd outgrown them, really, and it wasn't fun anymore. And it wasn't, we weren't enjoying it, you know, and it was kind of difficult to get any attention because the music world had kind of moved on.
Do you reckon that's because you understood that, you know, you've enjoyed it, you've experienced it, you understood that all of the things you craved in life, or you thought would make your life whole, you've moved on as people, or you realised you couldn't sustain it?
Probably a bit of both. You know what I mean? It is unsustainable, that behaving in that way, but also it was that point where we'd all started doing different things. It just drifted apart, you know, and everyone went home, you know, and then that came to an end. And then the Farm, as individuals, probably one of the only, I don't know, as a band, they've all gone off to be really successful in the different things they did after the Farm. And we kind of have all done well in that. And
is there any particular influence in your life or in the Farm's life, one or two or people or circumstances that when you look back, that was the main reason, or the people behind your success and your ability to move on? I think sometimes you don't really have a choice, do you? I think sometimes it's a case of you just got to deal with the circumstances that are coming along. I mean, I know for myself, I've always had an innate ability just to leave things behind me. I'm just, okay, let's move on to the next thing, you know. And I think everyone in the band began to do that. I mean, not discovering what you're supposed to do after the band, I think took me about 4 or 5 years to work out. Some people never get it.
No, it's difficult. You can't.
I still don't know what I'm not in the music industry, but I still don't know what I really want to do.
I kind of don't mean about knowing what you want to do. It's like, because, I mean, when you came in we met today, you said, I've heard a lot about you. Every time we had to go, I heard about you, you know, your name. And that's what I mean. So in a way, it can imprison you. So basically, people know me as Keith Mullin from the farm. They don't necessarily know Keith Mullin. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing. So to be able to move beyond that as an individual, and I think most artists and bands will go through that, takes a bit of time to work that out. Some people never really get relief from that grasp. And also for other people to view you or value you for something else is a challenge, and it is difficult. And I feel everyone in the farm has been able to do that. Every one individual in the farm has been able to do that, which is the reason we're now still together. We had to do that. We have to go through that particular process to kind of discover a little bit more about who we are and who we are as people and as individuals, you know, and as a group. So we didn't fall out with each other. We just kind of went on and then started to do our own things. And then after that, round about the early noughties, me and Peter had started to do some DJing for a guy called Cav in London, who was working with helping reform the Happy Mondays at the time, and we kind of got to know him, and I was doing some DJing up in Turnmills with Peter, and it was just a bit of fun, you know. And then we kind of got asked to do some with the farm, get back together to do some gigs. So we kind of thought about it for a while, and then we had one meeting up in a hotel one Christmas, where we had a Christmas lunch as a group, and we put it to the band, and the band said, okay, let's give it a go. And this is around about 2004, 2005. And we started to do 1 or 2 gigs then. And then we got offered a gig out in Dubai, yeah. We got offered a gig out in Dubai and went and did that. And we kind of had so much fun doing it. We just thought, well, if people offer us gigs, we'll start playing regular. And we've been playing ever since. So we got an agent at the time, and we've just been non-stop playing ever since. And we're able to do that. And because the farm isn't that, even though it's the reason I do a lot of stuff now, and it is how some people define me, it's not the be-all and end-all of my life anymore. And it's not the be-all and end-all.
It's back to the enjoyment as a teenager.
It's back to the enjoyment as a teenager. We kind of got lost a little bit in the middle, even though it was amazing, and I don't in any way underestimate how valuable that is. But it kind of, from a life journey point of view, that we're kind of back to who we were when we were travelling up the motorway in a car or a van going to a gig. You know, we kind of missed being in a van together and missed that camaraderie of us against the world, and being in a gang, I suppose you could call it, if I wanted a better word, that just being together. And we all still get on. You know, I tell my students that I work with in Lippert, I've been in a band longer than some of them been alive. Do you know what I mean? And
you know what sets your band apart and probably sets the bar really high is that you mentioned at the start your values.
Yeah.
It sounds to me that the reason you have managed that journey and come out the other side and back now doing it, you enjoyed it at the very start, you had the woo, and you're back doing it for the same reasons, is, as you said at the very start, you found people with similar values.
Yeah. Well, you know, we're making new music at the moment, you know, which is doing really, really well. You know, we've got a single out tomorrow, funnily enough, and called Let the Music, in brackets, Take Control. But we're singing about, and you know, and that's just come naturally. It's just come organically. You know, me and Steve and Peter have been doing some writing, and we kind of sat down, and especially me and Steve kind of sat down, listened to it, and thought, well, it isn't exciting us. And it's not kind of what we're doing. We won't ever let anyone hear it. You know, and it took a while for us to be able to play this music to people, and we released it. The first single, Feel the Love, before Christmas. It was playlisted on Radio 2, and it's been like getting hammered everywhere, and it's done a lot for the band. And we got this next single coming out, and it's like, so it's kind of getting interesting again, you know, from our perspective. But the songs are about something. You know, the songs are making social commentary, pretty much in the same way that we all have. We always have. And we're doing it ourselves again. At the moment, it's all completely DIY. And we're having a bit of fun doing it, you know, and we're not necessarily under any kind of constraints, and we're not under any kind of predetermined kind of approaches to how we should make music or what we should actually say. If no one likes it, we don't really give a shit, you know what I mean? Because we can just all go back to our lives quite comfortably and pretend that we never ever happened. you know, and also, but the fact is that people do like it, and the fact is that we're enjoying doing it, and it's so different now. We can just put music up on our Spotify account and we're not asked. Do you know what I mean? And it's really an interesting time, really, as opposed to be making music. You know,
you make it sound so easy, but I know from someone that
really hard.
runs multiple business, because ultimately you're a business.
Absolutely, we are. Yeah,
you have an economy, and you have
Yeah.
to balance the books,
Absolutely,
and you have to,
yeah.
and
You've got to plan it pretty much the same as well.
has that been plain sailing, operating as a business as much as it
No,
has your values?
It's been a lot of hard work. There's a hell of a lot of hard work goes into it. You know, to set up. I mean, before we released the first record, I'd spent all summer with a few of our members and different people setting up 4 or 5 records to go out. You know, and that's after we've recorded it and done it, and to actually sit down, do all the business meetings with people, get all the team on board, or cut all the particular deals that you need to cut. So actually set up a series of records to go out to have a particular impact, I suppose, you know, and that's what we did. And then immediately we put the first record out and had to change the plan, you know, because it was done a lot better than what we thought. And so we thought, well, we won't put a record out in 2 weeks' time. We'll put it out after Christmas because we've got playlisted on radio too, and we need to let that play out before we go to the next tune. So that's kind of what we've done. So yes, it is very, very business-like in that sense, but it's the type of business that you enjoy doing. And we kind of got to the point now where we're like, right, we need help, you know what I mean, at the moment, because you know, we can't necessarily do all of the work that's being thrown at us and do our day job. So we are, you know, speaking to people at the moment, you know.
What type of people?
Can't really say.
What industry?
Music industry, you know. And what I mean by speaking to people, there's different people that we're going to come in and work with us and just join the team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the team that we've already put together from an independent point of view, you know.
You touched on before life after the farm as what you did as individuals. Can you tell us more about yourself and what you've done?
Yeah.
On
But
that
the journey to where I am now really started to take shape around about 1999, the year 2000, where Lipper asked me to come in and help them manage a new programme that they got funded for, which was called New Deal for Musicians, which was a then Labour government initiative. And it was a guy called Steve Powell that asked me to come in there with, and the guy that used to, another person that won the bid was another person called Jed McKenna, and they were working in an area in there, and myself, Eddie London and Matt Flynn went and basically ran that programme for them and ran it from a successfully for a 5-year period. And basically I'd said, I'll come and do it, but you let us run it the way we want to run it. It was the deal, really. And we went in there and became mentors, and we were mentors to local artists and local bands. And it was the first time, I suppose, in history where if you were unemployed and on the dole, you could claim benefits and go onto a course the way they teach you about music. And that's what it was. And bands like all the Zootons come through that course. And a lot of other artists and bands did as well, you know. And did well as a consequence of it. But we did so well with that course. Lipper then said, will you be interested in coming will you be interested in coming and doing some teaching on the degree, you know? So I'd never really considered teaching as a career, you know, at all, really, or to that level. So we said, yeah, and so then I started to have a look at it and learn a little bit about it, and then start to engage in it. And over a couple of years, they weaned me into doing various things there, and then I went and got a master's degree. And then a HE teaching qualification, you know. I'd gone back into education to go and do education, which was revelation for me because I was always the kid at school, as I said earlier. It was told was slow, and so to kind of go elevate and go and do an MA, which is a master's, was something that was a real challenge. You know, I didn't think I could do it until I'd like everything in life. I remember just saying to them, show me what they do, what are the essays, what's an essay, you know what I mean? I'd never written a friggin' essay in my life, do you know what I mean? So I had to look at it, read through it, thought, well, you know, I can do that.
You can do chat GDP now.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I was like, I can do that, you know what I mean? I love reading and I love researching and all of that. And one thing I can do is I can focus on shit, do you know what I mean? But that's because of the way my brain works. I can just obsess on something, and sometimes a bit too much. And so I got through the MA because, you know, I have a guy called Mike Jones who was running the MA at the IPM over in Liverpool University. And I kind of did that, and I did really well in it. So I got all my qualifications and everything, and then I've kind of become an educator, a higher education level, and I'm now an academic. You know, and then from going through that academic thing, I'm now a subject leader, and I've written an MA for LIPA, so which is called Music Industry Management. So I'm now course leader and subject leader at LIPA, teaching other kids how to come and do it. And the beauty of that is they allow me to do all of my professional stuff, because me doing the professional thing that I do brings value to their educational programs. So it kind of fits. So I've done all that. Along with working with that, I work with Ian doing various other different projects. So we do lots of live music projects, we do filming projects. I've done, you know, kind of music for documentaries. I've done, you know, I don't know, there's a whole list of stuff that I've done out. So I've produced, I've managed bands, there's all loads of different things that I've done.
Have you ever had anyone say to you, "Oh, you always land on your feet," or "You're lucky"?
Yeah, I think luck is. I do believe that. Yeah, you're lucky, but I think you've got to be in it to kind of win it. I think you make your own luck. I don't believe luck just happens. You're there, and
your Masters wasn't lucky.
Sorry,
your Masters wasn't lucky.
No, it wasn't lucky. No, it wasn't lucky. I had to put some freaking work in on that. You know, but I had the ability to obsess, you know, and get it done. So it's not. I wouldn't say it was luck. I think there is luck is involved in it, but I definitely think you need to be there in order to get the luck.
I forget who said the harder I practice, the luckier I get. Who's that? That's a famous one. Yeah. There's the theme again.
Luck's part of the game, but you've got to be in it to win it.
Every time I sit here and talk to so many interesting people, it's the exact same theme.
Yeah.
Whatever industry you're in, if you have to get in and stay in.
Absolutely. I've always been
and be good at what you do.
Be good at what you do. Absolutely. And be ready for those opportunities when they come.
And just wait, or make sure you've created everything around you that the opportunity will eventually arrive, and you're ready to take it.
You're also ready to see it. Which is the most often. Yeah. So most people won't see the opportunities in front of them. You know, they don't see it as an opportunity, or, you know, I'm always a glass half full person rather than a glass half empty. I suppose. You know, I can kind of recognise what's not good for me. I kind of recognise now what the type of things that I don't really want to get involved with. You know, but
so, you know, kids. I left school, or almost left school, when I was 14. Did very little for the rest of the time. And now I am so much into educating myself.
Yeah.
I'm always reading, I'm always researching, and all the rest. Although for different reasons, I was reasonably good at school. We're kind of on the same journey. Yeah. So, you know, kids now that are, whether it's music, whether it's business, whether it's some other field that they want to get into, do you try and convince them to stay at school at the age of 13, 14, 15, 16 and, you know, see it through? Or do you say, you know what, it's okay if you don't, if you're going to choose I definitely talk about the value of it, the value of education. There's certain things I wish I'd known, you know, when I was younger that I didn't know, you know. Could you get them at school if you weren't into it? Is it?
I suppose I could have
the lessons in life.
I suppose some of the stuff I could have sought out. I could have probably listened more, you know, at certain times in my life when I didn't listen.
Because I know that if I was to redo it again, or give a younger version of myself the advice, it would be pointless doing it any other way. Because the only reason I'm sitting here now is that what's happened to me has then become the story and the lessons and the guidance to not do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether if I had just gone into studied education for another 10 years till I'm 24, I wouldn't have learned all them lessons that nearly put me over the edge multiple times.
I would never have gone into education if I hadn't have learned the lessons that I learned as a professional. You know, I mean, I kind of my career going in the way it would kind of coincided quite, you know, you know, well with the emergence of a place like Lippert, who were looking for people who worked in the industry to help educate, so that there was convergence going on there in that respect. But I was also, I suppose, from both mine and their perspective, the right person to be doing that at the time, because I was very open to it. I didn't feel that in any way threatened or intimidated by it. I just knew, I thought, I can do that. Do you know what I mean?
So in every way, we are teachers and we are students.
Yes.
Together at the same time or in different parts of our life. And my message to everyone is, if you don't want to do it, it's okay. If you do want to do it, it's okay. But you'll end up finding your way, although you might choose some easier paths.
No, you absolutely do. I mean, there is no like defined route with these things. You know, everyone's journey is different. You know, one thing I do say to my students, it's not necessarily about the destination. It's about the journey. It really is. The learning is the destination. The learning is the shit you do as you're going along. You know, and some of the learning you're either gonna take on board, and some of it you're not. And when you don't, you're just going to repeat that shit bit until you actually learn. Do you know what I mean? So the learning isn't necessarily, as I say, in the destination. It's in the journey.
Thank you so much.
No worries, man.
That was an incredible conversation.
Thank you very much for having me in.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.